I am so happy to introduce On Point's second guest, Wendy Leece. Wendy has served on the Newport Mesa School Board and is just timed out as a Costa Mesa councilwoman. Wendy is now running for Congress against Dana Rohrabacher in the 48th District, which includes Sunset Beach, Huntington Beach, Midway City, parts of Westminster, Fountain Valley, parts of Santa Ana, Costa Mesa, Newport Beach, Aliso Viejo, Laguna Beach, and Laguna Niguel. Did I get them all?
I think so.
So, Wendy, welcome to On Point.
Thank you, Sandy, for asking me.
I'm glad you're here. I have a few questions. You have been a lonely voice in the Costa Mesa City Council for a while, but in your tenure, you've been able to work across the aisle with Katrina Foley and on the fairgrounds issue, and Gary Monahan on negotiations with the police and fire department. So could you tell us a little bit about that and how you intend to carry that kind of open-minded approach to Congress?
Sure. Well, my parents were both journalists, so I grew up in a family that was always looking for all the facts. And as a teacher, too, wanting all the information before I present it to my students. And so at the end of the day, when I go and sit and vote on an issue for the city of Costa Mesa, I'm looking at what's going to benefit the people of Costa Mesa. After I study the issue and get all the information and listen to the people also in the public hearing, then whether I vote with Katrina or Gary, I know in my conscience that I'm voting for what's best for the people of Costa Mesa, and that was what I was elected to do. And so I believe that I'll take that same mindset to Washington, D.C., because there's a lot of problems back there, and even if I'm not on a particular committee, I will find somebody who is on that committee and work to solve the problems, whether it's education or immigration or the economy.
Yeah, education is kind of your focal point, right? It's kind of the thing that you really want to work on back there, as well as the other.
Right, but I think it's really the centerpiece of our problems, because we have to better educate our children and so that they can get jobs, and that will help the economy. And so, and then the whole immigration feeds into that too. But as a teacher, yes, education is really important.
Can you just tell me just briefly about how you worked? How did you work with Katrina in order to kind of save the fairgrounds from?
Well, we realized that something sneaky was going on, and behind our backs, that the fairgrounds was going to be sold, and no one was going to tell the elected officials at the city of Costa Mesa, who control the planning and the zoning and everything. And so once we realized that, we just rolled up our sleeves and realized we need to go to Sacramento several times and talk to the officials and just say, time out. The people don't want to sell the fairgrounds. And so it was exciting, and it was rewarding. A lot of people with the fairground preservation group, they were working also, but we were working too with the officials.
Yeah.
So that's a victory.
That was excellent work. And you also worked with Gary.
Yes.
On negotiations. How did that go?
Well, again, negotiations, they have to be fair and decent, and we had a process where we had started with both the fire and the police and asked them, because we needed to save money, what were they willing to give up, or how much more were they willing to pay. And the police were willing to pay 5% towards their retirement, and fire also, and also scale down and have people retire. But when it came to the vote, after many months, I knew that maybe this wasn't the most perfect vote and the most perfect plan, but it was fair. And it was decent negotiations, and so Gary must have thought so too, and the three, Katrina, Gary, and I voted on it, although I ended up getting a lot more criticism for my vote than Gary did.
Criticism from whom?
Well, from outsiders who felt that it should have been a better deal for both, that it wasn't the best deal, that we should have done other things. But I'm elected and to make those decisions, and there was a lot of information, legal information, that the people who judged me didn't know about, and so that's why I made that decision.
Yeah, sounds good. Why are you running against Rohrabacher?
Well, I think we all were a little bit dismayed in seeing the shutdown of the government recently, the gridlock, the divisiveness, the contempt, just for each side, that nobody's working together. And then I thought, well, why is this happening? Where is my representative? And why isn't he in there trying to solve some of these problems? And is he on a major committee, or is he on a chairman of a committee? Where is he? And so I realized that he's not part of the solution, and I thought, I'm being termed out. I don't have anything to lose. And because we have a top 2 primary in June, that I can just sign up and work hard to try and get into the general election in November. And I just feel that the congressman's been there for almost 26 years, and I think it's time for him to retire. And I still have some years in my life that I would like to work hard to solve these problems.
Yeah, that'd be great. You surprised me when you said 27 years, though, because I thought
26. Well, it'll be 26 this year.
Because he's only been a congressman in this particular. He's been in other districts apparently before the redistricting. Is that the way it went?
Well, Costa Mesa has always been part of his district, but it all went up to Palos Verdes Estates, and then I think down to Newport, and Long Beach was part of it. So now everything has shifted now more towards the coast. It's all along the coast, and so. I think he's got an expertise in foreign affairs, and that's kind of what he's involved in. But education and immigration, I don't see him working there to solve the problems.
Okay. Could you briefly explain your position on immigration reform?
Yes. Well, the first thing is that I believe that we should keep families together. That's the first thing. The second thing is that we should work with Mexico, because I think whatever foreign aid we're giving to them needs to have strings attached, so that there isn't an incentive for the people from Mexico to come here, but that the money that we give them helps them with their economy and farming and starting businesses, and also dealing with the drug trade. That I want to find out where the money goes and how it's being used. So those two things, I think that we need to have a plan where the people that are already here, as long as they're not criminals, but that they're working, they're willing to take a test on the Constitution and English, and to also have a timely plan to do that. But at the same time, look at all those people that are in line and waiting to come, and how, if they're being separated from their families, but how can they help the economy? So I think it's doable, but I think people are stuck in ruts, probably because they've received money from organizations, and so they have to toe this hard no amnesty line, and they're not really working to solve the problem for what's best for America.
So our Hispanic people that are here, citizens, I guess we can call them citizens. You would be in favor if they followed all those rules, kind of. Then you would be in favor of letting them stay here in the United States.
Right. I think it's impractical to think we're going to find buses and take them back or make them go back. I think the other thing that goes along with that is E-Verify, that the businesses need to only hire people once we get the plan that they can't they have to follow along with the plan and the policy too. I think that they do, the people who are here add to our economy, and a lot of them do the jobs that Americans don't want to do. We should have some kind of like a foreign worker, people that want to pick the strawberries and work in the fields, and a migrant, but I think, the Republicans aren't working on it because it's election time. Like, okay, well, so look at all this time that we lose. And I just think it's doable.
Yeah, I think it is true. I think you're absolutely right. It's, we could go back to that later. So I'm a little worried about time right now. But aside from your 5 children and your time on the Newport Mesa Board of Education and your time on the City Council, Costa Mesa City Council, what things are you the most proud of? What are you the most proud of? Wendy?
Well, I'm proud that I've managed to be a widow to raise my kids for the last 15 years. And it's been a challenge, but I'm thankful that I've been able to do that. I'm also, when I got on the city council, I went back to teaching, and I started teaching at Juvenile Hall. So I've been over there for 7 years as a substitute, and just really learned a lot and been challenged every day, seen fights, blood, I've seen a lot.
Really?
Yeah.
So have you ever been frightened there?
Yeah. When there's a fight, it's like having a car accident.
Yeah. Shocking.
You have to know what to do, and we wear a little thing, a stress button, and I push that, and they can see that, and then all the probation officers come running.
Yeah.
Or sometimes it doesn't work, and I've had to use the phone, and usually it's over like in 2 minutes, and it doesn't happen very often, but there's always the possibility that it's going to happen.
I know you love that. I know you love that job.
Yeah, I do.
And I think you probably, in the time that you've done it, I don't know how long.
7 years.
7 years. You have probably learned a lot of the backstory of these kids, right? So, how does that change you? How does that make you feel?
Well,
or what do you think?
Well, as a teacher, when they come in, and what's really sad is that even though they're 18, a lot of them may only be at 3rd or 4th grade reading level. That they're so far behind. Right. They've just fallen through the cracks, and so a lot of times I've been most recently teaching in the art class, and so that is creative and fun, and it gives me an opportunity to really engage them, and right. they get released, and then they come back. Yeah. And then you're back. Why are you back? Well, blah, blah, blah. But they go back to the inner city. They go back to a neighborhood where there's crime and drugs and gangs.
You never know how they turn out, do you?
Yeah, sometimes because there's other organizations that I'm involved in where there are success stories, and you hear.
But specifically, you don't. There's no way.
No, because you can't really get involved with them.
Yeah.
For 2 years.
Right, and I know they miss you for one particular reason.
Yes.
It has to do with.
Well, I've had 2 hip replacements, and so I haven't been there since January.
Right.
And so I'm hoping to go back.
And but don't they have something on Friday?
Yes. Well, if they're good and they have behavior, they get an A for 5 days. Then on Friday I bring in hot Cheetos, and I have to take them back to the unit, and they'll be good all week. Looking forward. So I know when I get back, they'll say, "Oh, Mrs. Leece, you owe me hot Cheetos."
So, is there any? Do you have a website?
I'm working on it right now. I have a Facebook page. Okay. And
so anybody could just go to your Facebook page.
That would be best right now. And I do have a team of people, and we're working together, and I'm working hard to win in June.
That's great, Wendy. Thank you so much, really.